The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook. Use promo code RTRS. Brought to you by BodyBio. Better health through science. Get 20% off Elite and anything else at bodybio.com. By Nature Pet Foods, the official pet food of the Ricky. Slow cooked with super fusion. Get 20% off your first By Nature order at Amazon by using promo code 20RTRS. And finally, Stateside Urban Craft Vodka, the official sponsor of the Corner 3 newsletter, which should be a doozy tomorrow morning. We delayed it to Friday this week, so Zoe could get it in there. Stateside available in 44 states from statesidevodka.com. On the show today, it's the trade deadline edition. We've been doing this for decades. The Sixers trade for George Hill. They don't trade for Kyle Lowry. We say goodbye to Tony Bradley and hello to the B-Ball Paul era. Without any further ado, Amos and the Chef.
We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We was right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. Say the name.
Welcome to the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. I'm Spike Eskin, along with a veteran keynote speaker of various colleges, that is Mike Levin.
Well, speaking of that, let me just put on my Fullerton hat.
We're both wearing it.
We're both wearing it.
Dude, you got
Fullerton, the official school of the process.
Yes, Cal State. Yes, totally, Cal State. By the way, you got to look at the YouTube for this one. Mike is in full lincecum because it is a baseball hat, not the dad hat as he often wears. I was told by Jack Keffer, who is my assistant program director at WIP, also worked for us once at a Live Ricky. Keffer is a huge baseball guy. He's like, the Fullerton hats are legendary. You got to get a Fullerton hat. And then the next day, they sent us one. So thank you to Dr. James Hussar and Nina and everyone who watched. That was a lot of fun, I think.
These are the perks you get when you're a big-time speaker on the college circuit.
Yep.
If I had a kid, I could probably get him in wherever I wanted. No doubt, no question in my mind.
It was interesting to hear you talking about your job. I don't think I ever hear you talking about it. So
I got more. They asked earnest questions. I think I gave earnest answers, so it made me uncomfortable.
Yeah, the whole you actually set up a background, which you've never done once for this podcast.
I was like, Spike's never seen this part of my apartment. Yeah. There's not many parts of it, but that was one you had not seen.
That was one. So thank you to Cal State Fullerton. Thanks, Doc. Thanks, Nina. Thanks, everyone. The Department of Modern Languages and Literatures, the official school of the process, Cal State Fullerton. Okay, well, here we are. Sixers do not trade for Kyle Lowry. They do trade for George Hill. What do you think of the possibility? Because I decided on Wednesday night that Lowry wasn't going to get traded at all. That was my prediction. But the more I thought about it today, the more I thought, is it possible that Masai Ujiri is looking at these two teams, Miami and Philly, who are both in his conference, one is in his division, both rivals, and like thinking to himself, there's like 99% chance I'm not trading this guy, but I definitely can occupy these two and make it more difficult for them to get better by fucking around with this for 2 days.
No, I don't think so. I don't think there's any value in that. I think that they wanted to upgrade their team and they wanted to hold firm on something, and whatever it kept being, Lakers don't want to give up Talen Horton-Tucker, Heat don't want to give up Tyler Hero, Sixers don't want to give up, I guess most of the reports said Matisse, some of them said Maxey.
Right, depend on who you were listening to.
Yeah. And I think that Masai wanted to hold firm on it. And whatever he was getting back, I think he figured it's not enough to the kind of the boost that he'll get. I'm trying to imagine the calculus in his mind from like his reputation of going like, yeah, he really didn't trade. He really set a bar and did not trade anything under that. I think I would assume he thinks that is more valuable than, maybe Isaiah Joe and Danny Green rerouted and like a late first type of thing.
Yeah, I think also this is not the only time we've seen in the NBA a player who was going to leave not get traded at the deadline because they didn't get what they want. I think to a certain extent you have to stand firm on, not always, but sometimes you have to stand firm just to let the market know what your standards are on things. Mm-hmm. I'm not totally surprised, and I don't think he was. I don't think they were desperate to trade him, obviously. And I do think the other thing that is possible is, and I don't know how likely it is, but there was some reporting by, I forget the guy, whoever was the guy who basically had the Miami Butler stuff very early, said that Kyle Lowry is winding up in Miami whether they trade for him or not next year. And I wonder if, the reporting was Lowry wants the extension wherever he goes, wherever he's traded. But I wonder if the reality was he wasn't willing to sign extensions with all of the teams,
because he's an expiring contract if you don't think that you can sign him after that, and then how much you're really trading. Do I take these stickers off?
Yeah.
Or do I leave
you can keep it on. I mean, I don't know what the kids do.
What's
nowadays.
What's the cool way to do it? Your hat guy.
Well, I take the stickers off, but only because I'm 44 and I'm worried that I'm gonna look even more like old guy trying to look like young guy.
For sure.
So
there's no return there. Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting trade. Like thinking about the the non-Lowry trade. I think
yes.
Morey's giving quotes right now, so we're recording this right before the Lakers game, so I'm sure things will be outdated. But it's the idea. A lot of people have talked about, hey, you have Joel Embiid playing at an MVP type season. I think trading Tony Bradley, there's a lot to talk about still, but I think trading Tony Bradley means that they think, one, Embiid is healthy enough to actually come back, and their concern about injury, re-injury, re-aggravation, whatever, is at least a little bit mitigated. They don't feel, they're not panicking there. Tony Bradley has been playing well, good for him. Turned himself into a trade prospect that someone would be interested in. And also they think B-Ball Paul is great, which is obviously we will talk about because that's the thing we care about the most. But it's also like Embiid's healthy. You think you got him. He gave a quote afterwards saying, like, I think in a 2 to 4 year time frame, if you go all in now and deplete whatever, your Matisse, your picks, your Maxey, Shake, whatever it ends up being, then that's kind of it. There's limited maneuverability in the future. And this is Daryl's first year here. This is Doc's first year with the team. Both of these guys are going to be here at least 3 years, right? No matter what happens, things could go really off the rails next year. And they'd still each get a third year. I think it's going to be longer than that. I hope it's going to be longer than that. But you got to think like at least 3 years we got
3 years. Yeah, for sure.
So why would you go all in your first year when it's not like Embiid's 34? It's not like he's 31. Like theoretically, Embiid's going to be healthy and somewhat healthy over the next 5+ years. And so he said he thinks in a 2 to 4 year time frame. It's just Matt Carey made this point on Twitter. Like, it's just good to have multiple shots at it. The Sixers right now have a shot to contend for a title. Did they go all in? Did they go, we're pushing every chip in? It's either this year or bust. No, but I don't think it would have been a smarter idea. And there's no telling that like fucking with the chemistry would have changed anything one way or the other. So I think they keep their powder dry a little bit. I think they think Embiid is looking good to return. And they pick up another two-way player in George Hill that will be really useful to the rotation in the playoffs.
Yeah,
so I wanted Lowry, but like I also was scared of what it would cost.
Yeah, so I had settled on didn't want them to make the trade. And there's a couple things about all in, because you were talking about it, a lot of people mentioned it. First of all, there's all different versions of whatever all in is. And you have to decide whether what you're getting when you're going all in and how close you actually are and what the calculus is to that entire deal. There's an enormous difference between going all in for James Harden and going all in for Kyle Lowry. There just is. And you can so are the Sixers close enough to go all in for a player of Kyle Lowry's? Not only close enough, but are they at the end of the line enough to go all in for Kyle Lowry? I think the answer is all in, meaning a first round pick, Thibault or Maxey, maybe both, whoever. I don't think so. And for two things. One, because of the cost. Two, because of what he is valued at. And three, because, I understood, I think 3 first-round picks for Jrue Holiday is too much.
Yeah.
But you could say, here are the Bucks who have the guy who's been MVP back-to-back, who have already been to the conference finals, who have definitely shown in the playoffs where their wall is, and they needed to prove something to Giannis. And it made sense for them. Even if I don't totally think the value was right, it made sense to overpay. I just don't think the Sixers are in the position to make sense to overpay. And hopefully in the playoffs this year, assuming they don't win the championship, just for argument's sake, hopefully they show so well, they put themselves in the position to feel like it's worth something like that. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're to overpay in season when you're already the best team in the East, close to the best team in the league. I think there is something to be said for chemistry, especially if Doc's saying, like, I feel really good about this team, considering he came from a team that had notorious chemistry issues and melted down in the playoffs. And so I'm not saying this team is like, please don't touch anything, they're going to win a championship, it's automatic. Like, that's obviously not the case. There's a good chance that they don't win the championship. Daryl even said in the comments that he just had, Brooklyn is probably still the favorite.
Well, and when by the way, when we had him on, when we did the Spaces thing that is in your podcast feed, he didn't disagree with the notion of them being like a 5 to 7% chance of winning the championship. Like he sounded like he had thought about that before. So yeah, not only does he not think they're the favorites, I think he thinks it's not super likely. It's possible, but not likely, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of, I kind of lost what I was going to say, but
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Lowry's good. If Lowry had gone to Miami, and then if they traded for, like, whatever the package that they got for Oladipo, which we can talk about also is kind of a weird trade because Oladipo is not. Lowry is very much a veteran presence, plug in. Him and Jimmy Butler would make so much sense right off the bat.
Oladipo felt like a panic move, even though
a little bit did. And I thought when that happened, when that happened, and then when the Warriors traded Brad Wanamaker to Charlotte,
we thought we were getting Lowry.
I thought we were getting Lowry. I thought this was a 3-team trade where Danny was going to go to Golden State. So if Lowry had gone to Miami, then it becomes, hey, you kept your powder dry on Harden. He goes to Brooklyn. They become a better team probably. You keep your powder dry. Lowry goes to Miami. Then it starts to be like, you're getting Danny Ainge here. Like as you're sitting waiting for like Mr. Right deal, then your rivals are getting better. And so I think the benefit of Lowry just staying in Toronto to, have a 25% occupancy Derek Jeter retirement tour, like is fine. Go for it. I think Lowry would be a great fit on this team if they can end up signing him this offseason with whatever cap shenanigans they have to do to make it happen. But I think that concern of missing the boat on another guy when you are at Embiid's peak or at least in his prime, I think is mitigated by the fact that Miami didn't get him.
Yeah, and two other things on Lowry, and then we can move to George Hill, is that one, I'm not totally. I know the Raptors have been up and down this year. I'm not totally psyched to see them in the playoffs if they put things together, to be honest with you.
Although the Siakam blow up at Nick Nurse is very interesting.
Weird.
I have a borderline unhealthy reverence for Nick Nurse and Masai Ujiri and what they do, because they just seem to always make the right decision. Mm-hmm. And
they make everyone better.
Everyone better all the time. Yeah. And so the idea that there's legitimately chemistry issues and fighting behind the scenes, and they're really struggling, some of it based on because they are in Tampa because of COVID and they've had injury issues and they've had protocol issues, all that stuff. To me, I'm there's a long game here happening here, because I don't know, it's not reasonable, but I look at them as kind of they're figuring it out, almost Spurs-esque of if they drafted anybody, be well, that's the right pick, that's obviously they got the right guy. And so it feels kind of surreal to be this team that has been, they were the better version of the mid 2000 Sixers for years, but then winning a championship all of a sudden vaults them into now they're one of the smartest franchises in the league, when for a while it was first or second round exit to LeBron. I wouldn't be psyched to face them, but they are. They traded Norm Powell. They are in a place of, borderline chaos. They should have traded Kyle Lowry instead of letting him walk for nothing. It's pretty close to chaos.
Well, real quick, they could still sign and trade Lowry to Miami if they want to, and get, sure, it might be helpful wherever he goes, or he could stay. The other thing is they trade. We'll get to this, but they traded Norm Powell for Gary Trent Jr. when Norm Powell's about to make a bunch of money. I texted MOC the other day.
Gary Trent also RFA.
But Norm Powell UFA, right?
I think he's got another year on his contract, doesn't he?
No, it's a player option.
Oh, right. It's a player option.
Yeah. So I don't know. They get a little bit. It's not a bad deal. I wouldn't want to pay Norm Powell's contract. I like Gary Trent better than Norm Powell, to be honest with you.
I think Norm Powell's a better player right now, and he's had 2 pretty spectacular years in a row. It's certainly an interesting trade.
Mike, it's everyone's favorite time. Everyone crowds around the campfire.
Yeah.
And old Papa Mike tells everybody who the Soft Shit Award winner is, the By Nature Soft Shit Award.
People play this on a transistor radio.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yep.
I would say that the Soft Shit Award has to go to the Toronto Raptors.
Wow.
I think pretty clearly.
Yeah, it was a soft move. It's definitely a soft move. Scared money don't make money, Mike.
Yeah. The idea that you want to give Kyle a farewell, sure, but the rest of the year he's playing in Tampa for a team that was going to struggle to make the play-in. I don't know if that's a great send-off.
By Nature Soft Shit Award goes
soft shit to the Raptors.
The Raptors, Masai Ujiri and the Raptors. Ooh. Such a celebrated...
they don't have their soft rims either down in Tampa.
No. Yeah, which is probably why they're struggling. Why they're struggling. So it is the By Nature Soft Shit Award, because if you want your pet, dog or cat, to start pooping firm, start having healthy poops, you don't have to scrape out of the fucking grass when you walk your dog. Not that I've done that ever before. Not that I've ever been pissed about that. But it's gross. It's gross. By Nature Pet Food, because it's healthier. They're going to have better poops. No more soft shit. It's healthier. How? It's healthier because of the ingredients they use. If you were going to eat healthier, what would you do? You'd use better ingredients. Apple cider vinegar, spinach, blueberries, super proteins, the best proteins, premium proteins, super ingredients, super fusion. Also, if you were going to be healthier, you would cook it healthier, right? That's what they do. They slow cook it. They invented that, slow cooking it, because your pet is small, which means they metabolize the food really quick, which means it's got to be more nutrient rich. By Nature Pet Food. And when you do get your pet some By Nature Pet Food, send us a photo. We can put them in the Good Boy or Good Girl Club gallery. We had a couple of them this week. Hold on, I'm going to bring them up, put them on the Instagram. There's actually a few of them this week. Hold on. We had a cat. Cat's name was Snickers, Good Girl Club. And then we had Otter, Good Boy Club. Cat, Snickers, dog, Otter. Look, it's better for your pet. and we're going to give you a deal for your first purchase just to try it. Use promo code 20RTRS on Amazon.com. Just search for the By Nature Pet Food Store. Use promo code 20RTRS. We'll give you 20% off your first purchase of By Nature Pet Food. Never had a recall in the over 40 years this company's been in business. Family owned, family operated, the company that owns By Nature. It's just good shit, man. Official pet food of the Ricky. Again, Amazon.com. Use promo code 20RTRS for By Nature Pet Foods. So they trade Tony Bradley, ends up being 3 second-round picks and a heavily protected 4th second-round pick.
Yeah.
For George Hill and who's the other guy from New York? I didn't write it down.
Ignas Brazdeikis.
Okay, Ignas Brazdeikis. So George Hill is one of the guys that we identified very early. I think in one of our earliest trade pods, we were talking about him or DeLon Wright, and I think we both settled on George Hill being the one that we wanted. He's a great fit for the team. He's played in the playoffs. He's a good defensive player. He's a good shooter. He is a solid player to
He's
add.
more than a good shooter. He's not going to fly around screens, but he's one of the best catch and shoot players in the league and has been for a while.
He's a good shooter.
More than a good shooter. Good. I mean,
well,
he's potentially like, there was some stat, I'm butchering it, but there was some stat that like Shake and Seth and George Hill were 1, 2, 3 last year in like shots, like points per 100 shots or something like that. He shot 46% from 3 last year, which is just insane.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, George Hill is
player.
Has been the prototype, and if you've listened to this podcast for a while, you've heard us talk about him, but like the prototype of the kind of point guard you want around Ben Simmons. It was like big, secondary creation, good shooting, can defend, 1 through 3, 1 through 4.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's obviously older and stuff, and so we've been thinking about who to get younger than that. But for this, the benefit is that he also has a second year in his contract. He's not. This isn't just a half year of George Hill. This is George Hill and then $10 million next year, George Hill, which is very movable. I know we're not talking about that right now. We're not thinking about the future quite yet. But
and it's not even totally guaranteed next year either, which makes it even better.
Yeah. But that's a very like that kind of middle Seth Curry middling $10 million contract that they could then, Bodner noted, they still have that Al Horford trade exception, which they could then send out for an expiring contract and then package that expiring contract with George Hill and it starts to aggregate into like a bigger potential salary situation.
I thought if you use the trade exception to trade for a player, you can't combine that player with anything else.
I think you can, if you acquire the player for, if say an $8 million contract for the Horford trade exception, then you have to have him for a certain amount of time.
Okay,
and then you can you can aggregate the contracts.
Okay.
And so I think that gives them flexibility moving forward, especially because their cap space is not exactly limitless. So George Hill's nice. I mean, he's just really he's just very solid. He is the point guard, more the combo guardy Danny Green. Has played for winning teams, has been in big moments. He's obviously older. He's just he's solid at the line. There's just nothing that he doesn't do at a very reasonable level. And I think this pickup is a little bit like Miami picking up Iguodala last year. Of he's mostly been on ice all season. He played a couple games with the Thunder. He's got a thumb injury that Daryl said he's basically healed from. I wonder how long it'll take for him to play his first game. But
so the cast came off on the 22nd, and he apparently is almost day to day now. Could be a week, but not much more than that is the report.
And he's just kind of exactly what they need. He, Maxey now moves even further out of the rotation. You have a very solid bench situation where it's George Hill and Shake Milton, two great shooters that are not, neither of them are elite ball handlers, but they can lighten the load from each other. And then Korkmaz, Matisse, Dwight, that's shooting and some penetration and some defense and stability there. Not to mention when you obviously mix in some starters. And so it's just a really 1 to 10. This team is solid, has offensive juice, has defensive stability, Doc's going to play him how they want to play him. Like, it's just a nice. This is like a total easy. Like, there's a reason why it's predicted is because it was like a really easy thing to see. Like, they could use a guy like George Hill. Oh, they got George Hill, and they didn't really trade anything of value for him. That's nice. Like, it's just such an easy, normal, good team thing to do. Daryl has come in here. He's made 3 acquisitions basically. And you could say the draft, and he's just done the like very simple, easy thing around everything. He acquired Danny Green for Al Horford and a pick, and it was like, yeah, okay, need to do that. Frees up cap space down the road, and also gives them shooting here. Traded Josh Richardson for Seth Curry, very simple, very easy to understand. And then drafted Maxey because he fell to them because he should have gone higher. Isaiah Joe fell to them also, and then Bebo Paul fell because he was the guy that should have gone higher as well. And it was just like, these are all solid choices. These are not crazy, mind-bending acquisitions that he's having to pull out of his ass. It's just like, sometimes it's just, put your bat on the ball and like make good contact. And this is like just a really nice addition of that. And the team is good. And I think it'll, remains to be seen how far they go into the playoffs. But this is easily, I would say, the most solid 1-10 Sixers team of my lifetime, and they have as good, and with Embiid playing at his level, if he comes back, they have as good a shot as any.
So I don't think they have as good a shot as any Sixers team or as any team in the league.
I think kind of any team in the league. I mean, I think that Brooklyn is still figuring things out. I think there's still like there's not like continuity there. They're obviously more talented at the top, but they don't have anybody that can really cover Joel, and the Sixers now have more shooting around him. And the Lakers are struggling. The Clippers have struggled. Utah is Utah. Milwaukee hasn't proven it. Like, I don't disagree that Brooklyn is a little bit of the favorite just because they have 3 of the best players of their generation on the same team. But like, I don't know. It's not. I don't think with a rookie coach and 3 ornery guys, like, that's not like a guarantee that it's all going to go smooth sailing.
Yeah, there are a lot of things you said there that I don't necessarily agree with, but whatever, it doesn't matter. That the 2 things on Hill: 1, I think he's going to end up closing games a lot, and not just for offense, defense things. Like, I think there could be a situation in the playoffs where he actually starts. I think he could start over Seth Curry, I think, at some point in the playoffs, because remember, he was a guy who the Bucks ended up taking crunch time minute. Now, what's his name? Bledsoe was fucking terrible, but he ended up. He's terrible. He's terrible.
I think the thing that Doc does is that he rides the hot hand. Like, you see every time Korkmaz gets in there. Sometimes Matisse has gotten in there. Shake. I think for sure George Hill will be in that mix of whoever's hot. I'm reluctant to separate Seth and Embiid because when they're both healthy, they are pretty devastating together.
And the other thing is, I don't think I think the price they paid was fine, but they didn't pay nothing. 3 seconds in Bradley is not nothing. Like, Evan Fournier went for 2 twos, so
Fournier's expiring though. Different situation.
Oh, okay, but still, I don't think 3 twos. I'm not saying it was a bad deal, but 3 twos in Tony Bradley isn't nothing.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's nothing. It's this year's second round pick is 59 right now, which is no different than because we have the Knicks second round pick. So this year it's the same as basically an undrafted free agent that they could get. 2025, 2026 second round picks, and then Miami's 2024 second round pick. They're not going to hopefully be elite second round picks. I like second round picks. Nobody likes second round picks more than me, but it's not something I'm going to fret over. And Tony Bradley is the guy he's been helpful with Embiid out, but he doesn't play in the playoffs unless disaster strikes. And I don't think if they, and Daryl has said, as you told me before this podcast, that if they go to the buyout market, it'll be for a big man. Hopefully, me saying this, hopefully a big man that can shoot. Tony Bradley's nice. He's he got himself into shape and was a nice addition for this team over the past couple weeks. But I couldn't be sweating it less.
So where do you think Hill's minutes come from? Just a little bit of everybody? Because I tend to think that they come from Shake. Like, Maxey wasn't even playing, so we can't even say him. So I tend to think they come a little bit from Shake, maybe even a little bit from Simmons, who probably plays too much, and maybe a little bit from Curry.
I hope so. I hope from everybody. Yeah. I think the benefit is let's get a couple, old-fashioned rest games out of it where people don't have to play the fourth quarter. Let's get Tobias down. I mean, Tobias has been so solid and consistent just over his career with staying healthy, but I would love to not risk that and just get him. Guys should not be playing 40 minutes in any circumstance. The Sixers, when they're healthy, are too deep to force guys to play that many minutes. And so now they have you think about, I think just going through the roster and thinking guys who can hold their own at both ends. I like offense, defense. I always have. I don't think coaches necessarily do as much, and I don't think players do. But now going down the roster, Danny, Tobias, Ben, Embiid, George Hill. I would say Shake. I don't think Doc necessarily feels that Shake is a guy who can hang defensively, but you can put out that 5-man lineup in crunch time and not feel like you're giving up anything really anywhere. There's shooting, there's defense, there's creation. It's a really potent situation, and I think flexible. If you start to think about what becomes of a Sixers Nets series, now you have multiple guys that you can throw on Harden and Kyrie and looks. George Hill's obviously not as good as he used to be, and he's older, and there's a chance that he looks washed rather quickly.
Seems like he's been hurt a good bit the last 5 years. Am I crazy? Yeah,
maybe a little bit. He's 34, 35. But it's just a solid pickup. I'm stunned by how normal the Sixers are. Just genuinely stunned. It is a surreal feeling to not be like, all right, Greg Monroe is starting point guard. We could make it work. It's fine. There is ways around that. But right now it's just like you look up and down this roster, there's young guys at the bottom that you want to see them develop, and I think that they are and have been and will develop nicely. There's some expiring guys that you're like, maybe they could have traded him at the deadline, maybe they could have made something bigger happen, but ultimately felt that Danny was too big a part of this team, and Korkmaz is very relevant on this team, so we'll see what ends up happening with him in the offseason. There's shooting, there's defense, there's some creation. I'm interested to see how, George Hill's not a guy that's going to break anybody down off the dribble, but he certainly can attack a closeout. It's just a really nice team. The only thing that this team is missing to me is a backup five who can shoot a lot. And I wonder if they feel like there's not that guy out there, or maybe there ends up being that guy in a buyout situation, or they just think, you know what, that's Mike Scott, and we can get him there, and we can have Tobias and Ben and Mike Scott do enough with Matisse and George Hill or something, and go, we're going to play fast, we're going to have shooters, we're going to roll out there, we're going to switch on everything, and we're going to make it happen. And maybe there's not enough big men in the league to make them pay for that, but it's worth trying. But I would still like a guy who can protect the rim a little bit and shoot.
By the way, a tribute to Mike Scott, who somehow never got traded.
Never traded. God bless him, man. I'm so happy for Zainab. I really am so happy for Zainab. Just riding it out to put your heart into one guy. One guy like that. And a guy who's in the rotation, might now be kind of out of the rotation for a little bit. Yeah. Plays his ass off. Shot comes and goes. Knees come and go. But he is, you lock in on one player.
One
and
guy.
Decide this is going to be my guy. And if they trade him, I'm going to be devastated. And at the $5 million level that he's at, for him to not get traded in back-to-back years over different regimes and different coaches, and being rumored in every single trade, and he stays with it, it's a special thing. And I do wonder if that conversation ever happens with Mike, where they're about to trade him, and they're like, people are going to be so upset, and he's so good. Everybody likes Mike. It's fine. People get so happy when he makes shots. Good for him. Good for them. Good for Zainab.
Yeah. I'm glad if they get to having them in the finals and him wearing the Ricky jersey is always the way it was supposed to be.
The dream stays alive for sure.
It does. So I want to go through some of the trades that happen around the league and sort of rate them.
Can we talk about Iggy Brazdeikis first?
Oh yeah, who the fuck is he?
So Iggy Brazdeikis is a big wing. I described him on Twitter as Justin Anderson with an anger problem. He went to Michigan. He played 1 year at Michigan. Wasn't crazy highly recruited at Michigan. but had a really good freshman year. He's left-handed. He's left-handed and does everything else right-handed, so he fits right in.
Yeah, perfect.
He really is very Justin Anderson-y. Like in college, he had the shot went.
So he sucks.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, like he hasn't been good in the pros for sure. Like there's no way to read into his professional career and say like he's been good. But the Sixers are lacking, at the bottom of at the lower end of the bench, like big wings who just can be physical and potentially switch. And I think there's a chance Iggy Brazdeikis is still super young. He could grow into that person. Tom Moore said that they don't plan on waiving him at this point. I think that they probably could if a buyout situation happens, but I don't mind like looking to the future of like guys that they're trying to work into roles. You think about Maxey and Isaiah Joe and maybe Rajon Tucker and then Iggy Brazdeikis and then Paul Reed as like that's like a decent like future 5-man lineup that we're obviously not all of them are going to hit, but if some of them do, then that's like a really nice thing that you can have good contributors at like cheap contracts while they're growing into themselves. So I like having another big body wing that we could try to mold and be like this may eventually become a useful player here, or they cut him in like 2 weeks and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but well, I always enjoy your lengthy tribute to some fucking guy that will definitely be gone.
Absolutely, he was legitimately good at Michigan, and then he went to the Knicks and was not good, and so there's a chance that it's just the Knicks and he just needs change of scenery. But I'm definitely not writing him off as far as that. He's a hefty wing, and I like a hefty wing.
Mike, I think you need to stop fucking around and get healthy.
Let's do it.
Stop fucking around. Yeah. We want you to get healthy. BodyBio wants you to stop fucking around and get healthy. BodyBio, local company, family-owned company. Deal with Mike. Mike has been a Ricky guy for his whole life, even though he's like 40 years old, I think, 35, whatever. BodyBio, it is a local company that is intent on getting you healthy through science. And the fact that they are a local sort of small company means that as science changes, their supplements can change too. One of the key points in health is being hydrated. And that's what Elite is for. This is no bullshit. I used to have a problem. I would get cramps in my feet, cramps in my calves, cramps in like my abdomen sometimes because I wasn't hydrating the right way. Elite is not like this stuff that you buy that has sugar in it or has fake sugars in it or fake colors. No. This is like only the stuff that you need to be properly hydrated. It's got sodium, potassium, magnesium. That's it. And you put a capful of it. If you're watching, you take the Elite, you put a capful of it in your water or whatever you're drinking. It doesn't have to be water. I put it in Spindrift in the morning and then Spindrift in the evening. 2 capfuls, your hydration problems are going away. It's better, as I said, fighting cramps, improving stamina, reduce fatigue, boost energy. Hydrating is important. You're 70% water. A human is 70% water. How could you fuck around?
I'm 10 or 20% more than that, I would say.
Yes, you're up to 90% water after the last year, I think. So here's what we want you to do. Go to bodybio.com and just try it. 20% off everything in the store. And we'll tell you as we go on with BodyBio, we'll tell you about all the amazing supplements they have. But I want you to try Elite. It's cheap. It's not expensive. With the 20% off, it's even better. Go to bodybio.com. Use promo code RTRS20. RTRS20. I'm telling you, just try it. I've had a couple of people DM me on Twitter, ask me about it. Just try it. I promise you, you will like it. It's worth a try. Promo code RTRS20 at BodyBio. BodyBio also sponsoring Mike O'Connor, who wrote an awesome trade piece on the trade for George Hill and not the trade for Kyle Lowry. So welcome to BodyBio as a sponsor and try that Elite. Rest of the league trades. We'll make this brought to you by Stateside Vodka because I don't know what we're going to get to and not get to in the rest of the pod. Stateside Vodka, the official sponsor of the Corner 3. I feel like Zoe might need 1 or 2 statesides tonight. It is crafted, distilled 7 times, gluten-free, no carbs, totally kosher, made here in Philly. You can order it just about any state in the country. Go to statesidevodka.com. We're talking about maybe putting a playoff package together, maybe with a couple of glasses and some mixer or whatever. We'll do something with Stateside. So until then, statesidevodka.com. You got to be 21 to drink. So the Bulls trade 2 1s, Wendell Carter Jr., Otto Porter, for Nick Vucevic and the guy I didn't even know was still in the league. 3 names. Used to be on the Clippers.
Who are we talking
about? With Vucevic.
Sorry, I wasn't.
The guy that
Vucevic.
Amino. Al-Farouq Amino.
Al-Farouq Amino. Okay. I was just totally not listening.
Well, we're talking about the podcast, the NBA here, so we should.
Oh, the NBA.
Yeah, we should be on that. So Bulls trade 2 1s, Wendell Carter and Otto Porter for Nick Vucevic and Al-Farouq Amino. Interesting for the Bulls, sort of just like doubling down on we want to be pretty good and giving up on Wendell Carter. And that's a pretty good price, I think, for Vucevic, considering where Orlando was.
I think that you have Zach LaVine. He's playing out of his mind. You're the Bulls. You're a big market team. And for a long time, they just kind of acted like they weren't. And they weren't signing people or signing mediocre people or whatever it is. And then they have a new regime finally come in after what felt like decades. And Karnisovas is just like, well, get rid of those guys. Let's just clean house, which just happens a lot from GM regime to GM regime, as we remember from all of our fun forays into new management. I think it's a good trade. I think they didn't trade too much, for sure. They weren't really going anywhere. Now they're at least like, hey, we have 2 all-stars that we put together. We have a couple young guys that we're hoping get better. I'm surprised that they didn't trade Markkanen, although I guess they could try to trade him or do a sign and trade or max or whatever match this offseason. I think it's a very reasonable trade. I'm proud, genuinely proud of Orlando for finally giving it up. For just fucking finally ending this. I mean, Vucevic has been on this team for forever.
By the way,
think about how much has happened for the Sixers since they traded Vucevic to Orlando.
Yeah, a lot.
Think about it. So much, and he's just been on that team.
It's wild.
And doing great.
Wild.
Doing way better than anybody thought he would. Certainly sticking it to Doug Collins every fucking day of his life. God bless him. He's a good player. He's a really good offensive player. The Bulls are going to try to score 1,000 points a game, and they have a couple young guys that they're hoping grow into something. I think it is a totally reasonable trade for them to make, and I think it is about time that the Magic tore it down. So I'm happy across the board.
So speaking of the Magic, next 2 trades are Magic. Celtics trade 2 number 2s for Fournier. I've always been kind of a Fournier guy. I don't think this trade moves the needle for them at all, really. I didn't think Fournier would have moved the needle, really, for the Sixers. He's a pretty good player. I know what his stats are, but I don't it just doesn't seem like the Celtics will be salvageable this year, I don't think. But it's not a bad trade, but it is what it is.
Yeah. It was interesting because it seemed like more could happen. They also traded Daniel Tice.
Oh, yeah, right.
In that trade, who I love. Or I guess it was a different trade.
It was a different trade. Yeah, it was a different trade.
I love Daniel Tice. I'm glad he's no longer on Boston. Although I guess they have Mo Wagner to kind of do a similar thing. It seemed like there were a lot of guys got traded just because whether it was cap concerns of like dipping out of the luxury tax or, hey, this guy's about to be a restricted free agent or an unrestricted free agent, and we're not going to deal with it. Like, no, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think Fournier's going to help them. There's a lot of guys on Boston. They're a thin team.
Yeah.
Like, they don't have they were like counting on young guys to like develop, and they just kind of never did. Danny has not drafted well outside of Tatum and Brown, really, although Pritchard looks pretty good. And so I think this is like a fine trade. They didn't really move much, and so if they think that Fournier is like fresh blood to rejuvenate the bench a little bit, I think if they traded Marcus Smart, that would have been crazy.
I saw that. Trading Marcus Smart for Aaron Gordon seemed fucking nuts to me. And I kind of like Aaron Gordon, but Smart, I wouldn't touch Smart. Like, that would be, if I'm the Celtics, he would be a tough one for me to move.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a good trade for Boston. He's an expiring contract. They didn't trade much for him, but I also don't think it's going to move too much of a needle.
Denver trades Gary Harris, a protected first, for Aaron Gordon. I think if Aaron Gordon plays the 4, he's a perfect fit in Denver. I think he could be awesome once his lungs and body adjust to the the dangerous difference that it is for visiting players. But once Gordon is adjusted, sure. I think it's a good trade for Denver. Gary Harris never really became what I think people thought he was going to become there. So I think it's a cool trade for Denver.
Yeah, Gary's fine. It was interesting that they traded him and not Will Barton. Gary's fine. I think they're hoping Aaron Gordon can come in and step into the Jeremy Grant role. Certainly athletic enough, just not as good of a defender. Should be, just hasn't been. They're kind of doing the opposite of each other. Aaron Gordon was kind of the guy in Orlando for a long time and could do whatever he wanted. Now Jeremy's doing that in Detroit, and now Jeremy went from being the just grunt guy, cover anybody, you don't really get your shots, catch and shoot when it happens, and then just fly around the court. And so they're kind of doing the reverse. It's an interesting trade. I think they certainly needed to make something like that happen. And Portland suffers from not getting that kind of a player. There just weren't that many guys out there for available for trade of 3-4 guys that can switch and play physical defense. So I think it'll be good for Denver, but it's also there hasn't been much movement in that Denver locker room for a while.
Yeah.
They seem to that foursome. I mean, you can even go deeper down into the team. They've been together for a long time, so I wonder what it does. But I like Gary Harris. I think I'm surprised. I'm genuinely shocked he has not been a Sixer yet. It just feels
like a Sixer eventually.
Kind of automatic.
Speaking of Portland, so Portland trades Gary Trent and Rodney Hood for Norm Powell. A puzzling fucking trade for Portland to me, though it does seem like Gary Trent may rub people the wrong way. Maybe it was a locker room thing, but they need another guard. I don't know. It seemed like a strange trade to me, but I think it's good value for the Raptors actually.
Yeah, I like Gary Trent. I think he's an absolute dog.
He's a beast, man. That dude's awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what these Raptors become, because it is if they can turn it around and feel like there's momentum there. They certainly have the players for it. I love OG Anunoby so much. He's so good. I really wish he was on OG.
Everyone was shitting on this trade, and I am not a Rondo guy. But the Clippers trade Lou Williams and 2 second-round picks for Rondo. Lou Williams has been rendered useless in the playoffs every time, and Rondo has not. And I actually think they were missing a guard who could handle the ball. I'm under no I know this is late career Rondo, but I actually think it's a pretty good trade for the Clippers. Everyone was shitting on it. I think it was a smart trade. Mike, would you say any team outside of the Sixers improved their championship odds today, trade deadline day? Significantly?
The Bulls getting up there.
The Bulls.
The Bulls.
The Bulls did.
You could argue Miami.
Yeah. I guess it's certainly not less likely. If anything, it's more likely. Slightly, I think. Slightly. And Sixers, I think, probably not in the official odds, but I think they're certainly a more full team. The only place where you want to bet this is DraftKings Sportsbook. Also, interesting thing, yesterday, I haven't checked yet today, but Embiid back to second lowest odds for MVP. So Jokic is minus 115, I think, and Embiid is plus 600 or plus 500. Certainly not likely, but interesting that he's second, I think. Also in DraftKings Sportsbook, there's the DraftKings Casino, where there is Sixers Blackjack, a Sixers table, Sixers cards. I often play Blackjack, won $117.50 earlier this week. Hadn't played Blackjack in a while, had a good day, feel really good about it. DraftKings is official partner of the Sixers. You can either download the DraftKings Casino app, or you could do it in the Sportsbook app. There's slots. There's Blackjack, live Blackjack with a live dealer. You could see the dealer. Roulette, a lot more. I don't do the live Blackjack, honestly.
You can see the dealer?
Yes.
That's pretty cool.
But yeah, it's cool. It creeps me out a little bit, but it's definitely cool. U.S. DraftKings is based in the U.S., so when you deposit your money, it's right there. You don't have to worry about withdrawing. It's always going to be there. Download the DraftKings Casino app now. Use promo code RTRS to get a deposit bonus up to $1,500. That's promo code RTRS to earn a deposit bonus up to $1,500. And if you take advantage of this right now, DraftKings will give you $10 in free credits. That's code RTRS. Must be 21 or older. Pennsylvania only, in partnership with Hollywood Casino at Penn National Racecourse. Restrictions apply. Deposit bonus amounts requires 10 times playthrough at various contribution rates. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, Lou Williams is a better player than Rondo at this point, at least more consistently. Rondo has had moments and had a nice little run in the playoffs for the Lakers. I'm surprised they had to give up 2 picks with Lou to do it. It's interesting. It's a really interesting trade. And Lou gets to go home to Atlanta. That's nice. Atlanta, by the way, was the 4 seed.
Yeah, I guess everyone was outraged that they made a coaching change. It seems to have made a bit of a difference, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that happens, though. That kind of always happens. You just, if there ends up being some...
Well, they've won
some just
straight.
Fresh blood moving along, go play before the new coach can implement, here's the system or whatever it is. Guys play free or whatever it is, and especially if it's Trae Young, and he didn't want to be playing for Lloyd Pierce anymore if he didn't like it, then he gets to be like, all right, I really have to make it different. I think that's the thing. We were talking about, Nick Batum we've talked about a lot, and then Otto Porter is a guy that, if they end up doing a buyout with him in Orlando, which they said he won't, because I think if I was especially early in my career, I would never do buyouts. Are you kidding? LaMarcus Aldridge giving up $7 million to maybe go play in Miami or Boston for half a season? Are you kidding? Take your money, man. Who cares?
He wants to win a championship. He wants to win a championship.
Yeah, but win a championship next year. Win a championship next year where you can choose. Where you don't have to give up more money. It seems. I mean, even if you want to get to the minimum next year and be like, hey, I'm a minimum guy the way Dwight Howard is, then great. But to me, half a season of it, I don't understand that at all. But I think that there's these guys that are bad, older, not playing well. Nick Batum. I think Brooklyn is hoping Blake Griffin is that. And you just start to think so much of it is effort. Mm-hmm. You have to be really obviously very good in the NBA. And when you're not playing at your highest level in the NBA, of highest level of effort, I mean, you even saw this with James Harden when he was on the first couple games in Houston. When you're just not giving it almost everything you have, you look worse. It takes a tremendous amount of effort to play high-level basketball. And if you're giving it 80%, you look like, oh, he doesn't have it anymore. He stopped moving his feet. He can't move laterally. And then when you're okay, now we really need to try, they still have at least some left in the tank. And I think it's easy to write off guys as washed when they're playing on bad teams that are not particularly well run.
We briefly mentioned the Heat getting Oladipo for Avery Bradley, Kelly Olynyk, and 2022 swap rights. Clearly, Oladipo, who has basically had 1.5 good seasons in his entire career, I think and I love the idea of him. I would imagine you do too, but the reality of him is not the idea of him. I think it's a dangerous trade only because, now I'll say that, and I would be terrified playing them in the playoffs. But that said, he needs the ball. He's playing for a contract. I don't know. I don't want playing for a contract guy coming into my title contending, at least I think title contending team, I can't imagine him playing the role they need him to play. I don't know. I'm not buying it.
Well, it's interesting because I think if you roll out a lineup of Oladipo, Hero, Duncan, Butler, Bam, that's okay, but there's really 2 shooters out there around, two to 3 slashers, because Bam has improved his ball handling and creation abilities around, and plus Hero can also get his own shot around these 2 guys that are flying around, kind of a weirder, more dynamic, but obviously less elite, peak Warriors, right? Mm-hmm. Where you have Iguodala and Sean Livingston and Andrew Bogut and Draymond, obviously, around Steph and Clay just running around doing everything. And so Oladipo gives you like hey, we don't have when Jimmy sits, then Oladipo assumes the Jimmy role. And if Bam is sitting, then you have like a more generic center in there, which might be LaMarcus Aldridge as a pick and pop big, and then it becomes like Oladipo and Butler are your fulcrums that are sort of like operating the offense as guys are cutting and screening around them, and so it gives you a little bit more of another dynamic player when Jimmy and Bam aren't playing 48 minutes. But it is a thing where it's like you kind of got a lot of guys that don't really shoot well, and don't shoot quickly well.
Right.
And so you start to look around, and like Iguodala is on that team still and is included in that. And I think that as you like this guy a lot, Goran Dragic is good and very helpful to that team as a guy that can create his own shot and also shoot. I don't know that I trust Oladipo shooting it enough, and I don't know that I trust his defense right now. Mm-hmm. But it's going to be interesting. There's certainly a lot on that Miami team, whereas like I look at the Sixers lineup and I'm roster and I'm like, there's a lot of guys that can do this. They're swapping in and out, staying healthy, staying fresh. I look at Miami and it's like, yeah, those are a lot of guys, but it to me doesn't. You can't play them all at the same time. Like you can't play. You're not going to put 8 guys on the court and go like, look how many guys that can do it. But I feel like the mixing and matching on Miami is not as good as the mixing and matching in Philly because there are fewer guys in Miami that seem to be able to do multiple things.
Yeah,
they have.
It's funny though when I look at Miami's roster, I was like, oh man, look at all those guys that could get a bucket. But that's
sure.
but again, to your point, that they don't seem that they're not that versatile. You know, like Hero can do it, and Nunn can do it, and Butler can do it, and Oladipo can do it. But all that said, it is a weird group of players. You know, it seems like a bunch of guards that can get to the rim and not really shoot, aside from Hero and Duncan Robinson. Duncan Robinson thought he was going to get. I wonder how much do you think he gets? Is he going to get $18 million a year, Duncan Robinson?
Something like that. Maybe in the like, I don't know. A couple years ago, Brogdon got what, like $480.
Yeah, he's
like
making
Bojan Bogdanovic. He'll probably get about what Bojan got, I would guess.
It's wild. Good for him.
I wouldn't mind, speaking of the trade you just said. Ryan Jones mentioned this on Twitter, but Kelly Olynyk as a buyout candidate is something that I would not mind at all.
Smelly dirtball. I don't want him on the Sixers.
Yeah, smelly dirtball can hit threes.
Nah.
That's totally fine with me. And I like the idea of bringing in a guy, George Hill, former Buck. I don't mind bringing in a guy that like played for Miami and Boston and now can be weaponized. And if he's bad, then we say it's a sleeper cell. And we never talk to him again, the way we did with Horford.
And by the way, Nemanja Bjelica also on the Miami
Miami. Oh,
Heat.
my God.
I mean, Jesus
What
Christ.
an enemy.
Yeah.
What a tremendous enemy he is over there. It's unbelievable. Like, he really is. I mean, I'd have to think about it.
I
but
fucking
one of
hate
them
him.
should be one of the most hated players, opposing players in Philadelphia sports history.
Yeah, I mean, fuck him. I mean, fuck that guy. Fuck that guy forever. And the last thing because we didn't actually talk about it,
JJ to Dallas? Did you talk about this?
Oh, no. Well, I'm glad, because there's no way he wanted to go to fucking Dallas. There's no way. He wanted to get bought out, and he wanted to take his not calling the cops, borderline racist Chinese New Year ass to Brooklyn, where he could walk to practice, and he can't. And I'm glad he got traded to fucking Dallas, because he's going to spend all day commuting back and forth to Brooklyn. So
he's just going to get an Airbnb for a little while. Hang out over there.
I forgot about it.
He gets to play with Josh Richardson, though. That's a fun. There's so many former Sixers playing with each other around the league. Where it's like, what are they talking about?
Yep.
What are they saying to each other?
I was looking at I forget who Indiana played the other night, but I was looking at both rosters and I was like, look at all the fucking former Sixers all over these teams.
So many.
Yeah.
So many. How do you feel about about Tillman Fertitta just kind of refusing to trade with Daryl?
Well, we don't know that Daryl wanted Oladipo.
Sure. But there's guys on Houston, and there have been, the PJ Tucker situation.
Yeah. I mean, it's a weird thing because I've always thought that, like, it could just, everyone made it out to be like, and I could be wrong, maybe I'm wrong, but everyone made it out to be like, Daryl said, I don't want to work here. They're like, cool, we don't want to pay you. He's like, I'm not going to work for a while anyway. They do the separation agreement, and then he goes to the Sixers, and Tillman, Fertitta's mad. I do think there is a little bit of, hey, China is the biggest market in the world for the Rockets, and you're also expensive, I actually wouldn't mind if you walked away. Like, I don't think the Rockets necessarily were too broken up that Daryl walked away. So,
but I think it made him. These owners have such ego, and I think it made him look stupid.
Yes, I would agree.
And I think he is determined to not look stupid again by losing a deal to a guy that the media loves. Like, the media loves Daryl.
Well, I don't think anybody wants to lose a deal to Daryl, by the way. I think that doesn't work in his favor. I think it especially, like, nobody wants to hear the report afterwards like Daryl Morey does it again. And I think there might be like a point to which he might have to overpay for stuff because he's Morey at this point. I don't know. It's not surprising. Rich old guys having a big ego is not that surprising. But I wouldn't have wanted them to trade for Oladipo anyway. I don't think.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree, especially during the season. And I'm interested to see how Miami works him in. Obviously, they have the culture and blah blah blah. But that's a weird piece to integrate right away. How do you feel about
Erik Spoelstra never winning 50 games without LeBron? I don't know. It's a weird situation. He's very highly rated, but has never won 50 games.
I mean, him getting a championship last year and winning 2 games that's enough of a vote of confidence that he's a good coach.
Yeah, no 50 games.
You got to give somebody credit over there, man. You can't say it's not Jimmy and it's not Spoelstra. Who are you gonna
credit for what? Like they're 500 this year.
Getting to an NBA Finals.
It was a fake NBA Finals, and we all know it. We all know it.
Sixers been to 1 NBA Finals in my lifetime. Daryl Morey's never been to an NBA Finals. Like, I would have taken an NBA Finals, however fake it is.
I'm not saying I wouldn't have taken it. I'm just saying that it is sort of weird that he's like Brett Brown won 50 games without LeBron. Brett Brown won 50 games without LeBron. Erik Spoelstra never has. Never. Not one time. So just wanted to throw that out there. That's all.
But you can't be the Hawks' regular season doesn't count for anything, and also neither do the playoffs.
Watch
you gotta
me.
Pick a lane.
Watch me, bro. Watch me.
All right, I guess.
I can pick whatever fucking lane I want.
So you do it all. Make all the lanes.
What was the thing that you asked when I started going on?
Oh, I'm excited thinking about what buyout guys are going to come here, because it would be, hey, come and be half of our backup center.
Well,
come be like half a backup center when Dwight is not the right matchup or when he's fouling.
Who are you even thinking? Because aside from Olynyk, I don't know of anybody else that.
Gorgie?
Oh, he's not actually good. He's on another team good. I would not trust that. I wouldn't. I don't know. He seems fake good. He's like.
I just need some options. Yeah. I just need some options as far unless they think it ends. I mean, even just for
this is
safekeeping of who's the backup 5 going to be if Dwight gets hurt or if Embiid gets hurt. If Embiid gets hurt, they're fucked. It doesn't matter. But obviously, B-Ball Paul, who I want to play, who did tweet Diamond's form under pressure, which is such. It is so surreal that he's tweeting basically a Bynum quote, almost 10 years later, and I'm hoping this time it works. But I'm sure Doc would rather. I'm excited to see what kind of deal B-Ball Paul gets. Hopefully it's the Shake deal, but I wouldn't mind just another. Give me a guy who can hit shots a little bit.
Do we raise a banner for Tony Bradley at some point for his with all of his games that he didn't miss a shot in? Have you seen the starting lineup?
God bless Tony Bradley. I like him. I'm happy. Seems like a good kid. Embiid really likes him. That's troubling that they keep trading guys Embiid likes, but he is just because we've had so many weird people over the years. A big man doing Tyson Chandler stuff, even though Tony Bradley is doing it on a much more ground-bound place, is like that's what most of the NBA has been for a long time, and it's like it seems odd because it was of how normal it was. I'm still mad about the Zaire trade. They did Zaire wrong.
Wait, how did they do Zaire wrong? He's still not playing.
They fucking tried to kill him.
They didn't try. He didn't even.
Then they traded him for nothing, and he's still a kid. And I really root for Zaire and hope that he ends up being something.
That was. I'm more than happy to blame the Sixers for anything, but he didn't even know he had the allergy. He had no idea. It's not their fault.
I'm not letting it go. If you can have all the lanes, then I can be mad at other people for Zaire not working out.
It's so fair.
You have to. That is what I need.
Do you think that, just a honestly, serious question about B-Ball Paul? Until they sign another center, does he get 14 minutes a game or something, or no? Or do they just do Ben at the 5 and Mike Scott at the 5 and all that kind of shit?
I don't know. I mean, he should start tonight. He should be starting. He's played well. He deserves it. And the games kind of don't matter until Embiid comes back anyway. Although we didn't mention the 2 games that we haven't talked about. But like winning ugly, winning games that they shouldn't win, winning games without Embiid. It's very unlike the Sixers, and I feel like I don't know this team at all. But they're very good, and I would like to see B-Ball Paul play in them. I would like to see him try to take shots when he's open, fly around the court in transition. Like he should play. He should play until Embiid gets back. But I find it a little hard to believe that Doc's going to trust him.
Yeah. It doesn't. Well, I mean, he might have no choice I guess his other choice is playing Simmons 44 minutes and Mike Scott 22 minutes or something like that. So
yeah.
Before, did you have? I mean, we've done a lot on the trade deadline. But the only thing I had left was our YouTube comment, which was B-Ball Paul related, which was the only other thing. Did you have any other?
Well, I want to also mention that the Sixers not only do they trade four second-round picks and Poirier and Terrence Ferguson and Tony Bradley, they also traded the rights to Amir Pretzeldick, who they had.
Is that his real name?
Preldzik.
Okay.
Preldzik. But it looks a lot like Pretzeldick, and they had gotten him, and so as a rights to podcast, we have to acknowledge that those we have lost.
Amir Pretzeldick.
It looks like it. It really does.
Before we go, I would be remiss if I did not give you the hard to stomach YouTube comment of the week. Of course, you can leave a comment down there. Mike, we're on the cusp of 4,000 subscribers on YouTube. Thanks to CJ. Thanks to our subscribers. This comes from Just Chill 76. Mike investigating the origin date of B-Ball Paul is some of the most investigative journalism I've seen on this pod. Lifting your game, fellas. Also, I definitely credit you guys for that nickname. Didn't hear it at all until your pod. So there you go. Getting credit for B-Ball Paul's nickname, even though he already had the nickname. I think we did popularize it, though, for sure.
B-Ball Paul.
B-Ball Paul.
It really is amazing. It is amazing that he's good, and he's getting us immediately converted to a regular contract, hope any minute probably. It's really nice, and it's a shame that I'm out here changing the culture so much and still not verified. After we do
Twitter Spaces,
full Twitter, whatever it's called, with the GM of the Sixers and his friend Hugh.
Yep.
And
Hugh,
I'm out here.
Hugh, an established fiction writer, I want to say. He was. I don't read really anything. So aside from I don't read fiction for sure, but I was told by several people that Hugh is a big deal. So I just want to be
sure.
clear.
Well, he's a bigger deal than me.
Yeah,
certainly. Because he's got that check next to his name, and I don't even know if I'm myself this whole time. What else do I have to do? Do I have to start going into doing ads for Twitter? What do I have to do? What's going on? I need validation, and I'm not getting it. From anybody?
How about Morey, by the way? Just fucking hopping on for 45 minutes, and
I'm ready to have him back on the podcast. I'm gonna take it to him. I'm gonna take it to him about stuff. He's so honest, and Elton was this way at the beginning of his reign when we had him on the
live show.
On the live show, Elton was especially after a Colangelo regime, Elton felt like he's just talking. And when somebody would give answers, and I would be like, "Are you sure you want to say that? Is that that's?" And Daryl's the same way, where it's just frank and be like, "Well, this is what it is." And he's like, "We're probably gonna go get a big guy in buyout," and it's like, well,
It's amazing how similar he is to Sam using the word optionality.
But Sam was not like that.
No.
Sam is just like, I'm not gonna say
it. The rest of my sentence.
You're doing the opposite. You're saying it. You're saying the point that I just made.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's amazing how similar he is in some senses, but how opposite he is in the other. He is really like a fully evolved. Though I don't imagine he is. He's a little too much into I'm gonna buy this crypto art bullshit. like we can chill on
Did you see Slack did email? Slack opened itself up
yes,
to
you can
email now.
You can DM anybody.
Send email
right?
with Slack. That's huge, and that's so huge for me. That as a guy who hated email and was so upset that of how I can only send a message to one person with a subject line, and it's just like I'm so glad that it is now fixed by people that are solving the world's problems.
It only fixes it if you can get rid of email. Like what I told, because they use Slack at work. Some of the departments use Slack in our company. And they're like, well, here's your Slack username and use Slack. And I'm like, I'm only using Slack if you don't email me anymore. I don't need messages from you on 4 fucking different platforms. You're going to text me, you're going to email me, you're going to Slack me. No, you're going to pick one, and that's how you're going to communicate.
Email's fine. Leave email alone. Mike Scott is starting, not B-Ball Paul.
That's a bummer. Not surprising, though. Not surprising. Doc loves Mike Scott.
This one's for Zainab.
Yeah.
Happy for her.
Yeah. Congrats, Zainab. So
take a victory lap.
Congrats, Sixers. Hopefully we see George Hill soon enough. Hopefully Embiid comes back. Congratulations, Daryl, on your first free trade deadline. No matter what you did, we were going to endorse it. You don't get another one. Right. So
that's it. Congrats to you for Danny Green staying.
Yes.
And I'm happy. I part of the Lowry thing was like Danny Green is an asset to us, and he's not an asset to Toronto. Mm-hmm. And so we can't just make the salaries match and not care about it because they would have missed him.
Yeah, I'm very happy that Danny Green is still here. The guy's a winning player. He's won 2 consecutive champions. He's won more championships than fucking Kyle Lowry. I'll tell you that. Kyle Lowry teams fucking choked when they didn't have Danny Green and Kawhi Leonard. That's all I know.
There you go.
That's all I know. All right. Go Sixers. You can listen to this. Hopefully you're listening to this while the Sixers are playing because they're playing in like 10 minutes. Otherwise, there hasn't been like a lot of Sixers gameplay, but it's a trade deadline. This is when we shine. So we'll talk to you this weekend. Are you down with TTP?
Yeah. You know, Lickface. Cal State Fullerton.
If you don't fuck with me, then I won't fuck with you.
If you don't fuck with me,
then I won't fuck with you.
But if you fuck with me,
I'm gonna fucking kill you!
That's a plan B.